Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to The Fragrance Well. For today's video topic of discussion, we are talking about fragrances that you have to be committed to. In other words, when you spray them on, they do not easily wash off. If you get on your clothes, you can forget about it. You gotta wash those clothes and maybe wash them a few times or use some special concoction to get strong smells out of your clothes. If you take a shower soon afterwards, the fragrance is probably still going to be on your skin to some degree and even still be at least a little bit detectable. So these are commitment fragrances slash strong fragrances. Really good staying power with these scents. They're fragrances where if you're trying to wear 2 fragrances in one day, these are probably not the best choice to go about for doing something like that. And I've got 10 of them here, and they're all different types, different uses, different seasonality, whatever. It's just the fact that these fragrances, at least for me, when I spray them on, it's because I want them to last the majority of the day. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like this content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, to kick it off, we're going to go with one from Francesca Bianchi. That's going to be Etruscan Water. Francesca Bianchi, Etruscan Water. And you know what? I guess I could shout out the entire house to a degree with this subject matter. Francesca Bianchi has some very strong fragrances that do fall into this category. They stay on, at least with my experience with them, they stay on your skin a very long time. So this one here is a modern take on the classic gentleman's Chypre fragrance category. You've got some good citrus in here. It's kind of a warmer citrus category. It's not very sharp. There's a good amount of spice. I get a little bit of cumin. Could also maybe be some clove or something of that nature. A lot of heavy resins, a good amount of woodiness as well. And also some oak moss, obviously, as is typical with the Chypre category, and some other characteristics as well. Very complex fragrance, a little bit funky, a little bit of a slight animalic tinge, but again, it's a Chypre fragrance that is presented in a very modern way. Stuff going on in the fragrance you don't typically see maybe in the more classic Chypre style, and I absolutely love the fragrance. It's not going to be for everyone. Most people might say this is a little bit dated overall, but one thing is for sure, this fragrance here is very strong. Anytime I wear this, usually I may do 3 sprays, and that's more than enough. And when I say I can pick up the fragrance off of my skin easily throughout the entire day, I'm not exaggerating that. So this is a commitment fragrance. You spray this on, it's something you want to wear. You can even say the color of the juice may give an indicator of that. That doesn't really mean anything overall, but usually when you have dark fragrances like this, many of them tend to have a lot of staying power. So once again, from Francesca Bianchi, this is Etruscan Water. All right, next one's going to be coming from Frederic Malle, and this is going to be Portrait of a Lady. Frederic Malle, Portrait of a Lady. So this is a rose fragrance. It's a very spicy, patchouli heavy, woody rose fragrance presented in a overall dry characteristic. You do get a little bit of contrast. I remember last time I talked about this, I said it was very dry overall. I actually wore it one time after that, and I realized that the rose has a little bit of contrast to that. It's almost jammy, but in a very light way. It's just there's so much dryness to the fragrance, it counters it by way of the spice. Very clove, heavy spice characteristic in here. Very woody and dry. A lot of patchouli that's presented in an overall dry way, and loads of cedarwood as well, or sandalwood, one of the two. Either way, blonde, dry woods, that's the characteristic you get from this fragrance. Also some black currant in here, adding just more tartness to the scent. But I am a big fan of this scent. It's not going to be for everyone, but one thing is for sure, at least with my experience with it, and I don't know what batch code my bottle is. I think it's a newer one. I've heard that they've actually weakened this, or at least put it this way, people have said that they've weakened this fragrance. All I can say is with my experience with it, if they did weaken it, it's still not weak. It's still very strong. This was on my skin. I wore this not too long ago for a wedding, and it was on my skin heavily for a long time. The wedding, I did spray it on relatively earlier in the afternoon, so you could say I didn't have it on all day, but anytime I have worn this fragrance, and I've worn it even early in the morning, it's been on my skin all day long. So I've had no performance issues with this, and I do feel like because it is a pretty decent projector as well, you are committed to this scent. And also just its profile is not something I would mix with a lot of things. So I consider it to be a fragrance that you have to be committed to if you want to wear it. So once again, from Frederic Malle, this is Portrait of a Lady. All right, guys, next one's coming from Tiziana Terenzi, and this is Nero Oudh. Tiziana Terenzi, Nero Oudh. All right, so this is, along with the Oud moniker, it's actually a spicy rose oud fragrance. Pretty much a saffron rose oud. Saffron, very, very apparent right off the bat. Rose presentation in this, I think, is overall fruity. I also think there's just some fruity notes to kind of help accentuate that fruity nature to this scent. You could say it's kind of berry-like, raspberry characteristic, if you will. Oud in here, maybe slightly medicinal, kind of an oily oud characteristic, a little bit of a brighter, dry, woody oud characteristic, other woods in here as well. I get a little bit of a leather-like characteristic, which makes sense with saffron because it has leather-like characteristics. Overall, it's a complex fragrance, but it is also very, very powerful. And, you know, full transparency, not my favorite saffron rose oud fragrance that I've gotten my nose on or that I have in my collection, and I told that story about around when I first got it. I'm not going to go into that now, but one thing that I cannot deny about this scent is it is very, very powerful. You don't need a whole lot of sprays, in my opinion, particularly when you first spray it on, because that saffron is piercing, and if you just spray a lot of it, it's just going to be a lot, in my opinion. But it has staying power. Anytime I've worn this on my skin all day long, I would just say mitigate the spray so it's not too much, because it has some push off the skin as well. But yeah, it's a commitment fragrance as far as I'm concerned. So you spray this on, it's because you want it to last for the majority of the day. So once again, from Tiziana Terenzi, this is Nero Oudh. All right, guys, next one's coming from Paco Rabanne, and this is Invictus Parfum. Paco Rabanne, Invictus Parfum. And I mean, I guess this is kind of a dumb reach, if you will. Invictus fragrances in general are known to have very good performance. As far as I'm concerned, this one is no different. Just happens to be an Invictus style I actually like, because I'm not a big Invictus fan. Outside of Victory, even though I don't have a bottle of it, I think Invictus Victory was excellent. But yeah, the traditional Invictus DNA, I can't stand. The EDT, bleh, you know, it made me want to throw up when I smelled it. But this one here, a little bit more of a mature version of that Invictus DNA. It's very, very fresh and bright, a little bit aquatic, relatively sweet. This one actually has a really nice aromatic, soapy characteristic to it that I think sets it apart from the other Invictus fragrances that I just really, really like. It's actually lists a note of black soap. I wouldn't say I use black soap, but I use like African style soaps, and I feel like that characteristic is actually captured in this fragrance. May not be the most realistic capture of that essence, if you will, but it does smell very, very good. It's something I'm a fan of. So I think they did a great job with this scent. But other than that, it still has the Invictus performance, if you will. You spray this on, you're committed to it. You don't need a lot of sprays for it to work. It will, for most people, last all day long. So once again, from Paco Rabanne, this is Invictus Parfum. All right, guys, next one's coming from Thameen, and this is going to be Amber Room. Thameen Amber Room. All right, so if you are a fan of Dior's Ombre Nuit, you might like this fragrance. It's not a clone of it because there are some elements to Amber Room that definitely separated from Ombre Nuit, but nevertheless, it's definitely inspired by it. I mean, there's just no denying it. So Amber Room, rose, a little bit of spice, a little bit of patchouli, and a good amount of amber, very strong, rich amber accord, of course. Rose, very, very smooth, not overly jambly, but not very bright either. It's a very warm interpretation of rose. The patchouli, I think, kind of helps accentuate that. Patchouli, very strong in this scent. It comes across with a little bit of that chocolatey characteristic, but overall kind of an earthy, leafy patchouli, and some spice sprinkled on top of this. This one kind of has a brightness to it by way of maybe like a grapefruit style citrus to it that I don't really get from Ombre Nuit. But all that being said, again, it's just an iteration of an Ombre Nuit style fragrance. with its own take to it. I think overall, though, this is a lot stronger than Ombre Nuit. A lot of people's complaint with Ombre Nuit is that it doesn't really last as long as they would like. Well, I would say with Amber Room, that's probably not going to be a problem. This fragrance here is very strong. If you spray enough of it, it can actually be room filling. And anytime I've worn this, I mean, it sticks to my skin all day long easily. It just has a lot of elements that tend to stick to people's skins a long time. So I think all of that is represented here. So as far as I'm concerned, you spray this on, you are committed to it. So once again, from Thameen, this is Amber Room. All right, next one's coming from Lorenzo Pizzalia. This is Black Sea. Lorenzo Pizzalia, Black Sea. This is a fragrance I've talked about a lot on this channel. I've talked about how it is probably one of the strongest fragrances in my collection. And I've also talked about the fact that this one, for whatever reason, gets a lot of compliments. People really like the way this stuff smells, but I would say get a sample of it first. It's just not for everyone. It's a very, very dark aquatic fragrance. It's quite salty. It's a little bit powdery. It has the aquatic features of like a deep sea fragrance. I like how Equality Fragrances broke it down, how you're either by the beach, just off the beach, or you're deep out in the ocean. This has that deep out in the ocean aquatic feature to it. A little bit green as well. It's almost got this algae / kelp like characteristic to it. It's not going to be for everyone, but those who like it, you know, I think it would be a really good fragrance for you. All I know is when I first smelled it, I was in love with it. But what I did not expect was the fact that this fragrance is basically nuclear. I mean, you spray this on and it just will not leave. If this gets on clothes, I mean, it could stick around for months even after washing it. And you spray this on, it's easily over a 24-hour fragrance, in my opinion, or at least that's been my experience with it. And again, you don't really need a lot of sprays for it to do what it does. So this is a commitment scent, one of the heaviest commitment scents I have in my collection. So once again, from Lorenzo Pizzalia, this is Black Sea. Okay, next one's going to be coming from Orto Parisi, and this is Megamare. Orto Parisi Megamare. And, you know, same thing with this house in general. A lot of fragrances that are going to give you almost nuclear-like performance. And similar to Black Sea, this one is also one that is easily one of the strongest fragrances in my collection. So this one and Black Sea may be kind of up there battling with the just ridiculously nuclear lasting fragrances. So this one is also kind of aquatic, but in a much different way from Black Sea. So that's why I didn't mind featuring it. This one kind of has a little bit of a melon-like fruitiness off the top. The aquatic nature of this is very lightly salty, but overall kind of a clean, watery vibe, almost soapy in a way. And it's very heavy on musk. And matter of fact, in my opinion, when this fragrance kind of like dries down once it's been on your skin for, you know, hours and hours, it's more musky than it is anything else. So that's an interesting feature of this fragrance. But overall, it's more of a more pleasant overall, clean, slightly fruity aquatic fragrance. Doesn't smell very authentic, but that's okay. That's actually kind of a feature you can find in a lot of these Orto Parisi fragrances. But that's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. This fragrance is nuclear. You spray this on, you are absolutely committed to it. Can absolutely fill a room. Very easy to overspray. I mean, 2 sprays, no more than 3 is probably what you need for most uses with this fragrance, and even that might be too much depending on what the occasion is. But yeah, there's no denying it. I think a lot of people have all cemented that this fragrance is easily one of the strongest fragrances on the market. So once again, from Orto Parisi, this is Megamare. Okay, next one's going to be coming from Amouage, and this is Beach Hut Man. Amouage Beach Hut Man. All right, so with this one, very fresh and spicy and green. It's a spicy mint fragrance overall that features woodiness to it. It features some pretty heavy resinous characteristics, overall spicy feel but fresh feel, and kind of behaves like a fougere in a weird way without the traditional fougere like ingredients or notes, which is what I really like about it. It just kind of puts me in that mindset. This is another fragrance in my collection. I've never found the need to spray heavily for it to do what it does. Anytime I do wear it, I find that it absolutely will stick to my skin all day long, no problem. Now I will admit, compared to some of the other ones I've talked about on this list, this one maybe doesn't last quite as long as those do. I wouldn't call this a 24-hour fragrance, but I would say, you know, on my skin, If I had to put a number on it, it could be up to 18. I mean, that's a commitment scent. Anything going well over 12, in my opinion, is going to be a commitment fragrance, because for most people in their daily activities, you're going to be doing whatever you need to do within that time frame, and the fragrance is still around. That means you're pretty much committed to it. So once again, from Homage, this is Beach Hut Man. All right, moving on. Next one's going to be coming from Nishane. This is Fan Your Flames. Nishane, Fan Your Flames. And you know what? I'm going to give a shout out to the region. Not just the house of Nishane, but Turkish fragrances in general. At least the ones I have experience with, which to be fair is not a ton, but enough. I think Turkish brands like to make strong fragrances. That could be due to the environment that they live in. I'm not really 100% familiar with Turkey's climate, if you will, but a lot of times that's why some fragrances from a particular region are just stronger than other ones. So I'm just going to liken it to that. But Fan Your Flames is absolutely one of those. This is a very festive tobacco fragrance in my opinion. Rum and coconut gives me that festive / tropical vibe. The tobacco in here, relatively clean, not really a smoky vibe to it in my opinion. Not overly leafy either. It does feel like processed tobacco in my opinion. A little bit of dryness with a very dry cedar wood note in here, and a good amount of sweetness too by way of tonka bean. It's an overall kind of subtropical tobacco fragrance. Puts me in the mindset of being in a tobacco shop in any tropical island, really. Jamaica is the one that comes to mind in terms of memory, but I think just any tobacco shop in a tropical island, that's the vibe that this fragrance gives me, especially if booze is being served. But yeah, anytime I've worn this fragrance here is quite strong. It will last all day long for most people. That certainly has been my experience. Projects nicely as well. So if you spray this on, you are committed to it. And frankly, there have been times where I've chosen not to wear this scent because I knew it was going to stick to me maybe longer than I would have wanted it to. And again, that's not every time. It just depends on what I'm trying to do for that day. If I know I want to wear something else later on in the day and I'm spraying something early, this may not be something I would go for that reason. So once again, from Nishane, this is Fan Your Flames. All right, and last but certainly not least, coming from Maison Crivelli, this is Patchouli Magnetik. Maison Crivelli, Patchouli Magnetik. So obviously, as the name implies, there's some patchouli in this fragrance, and that is accurate. This is a very polarizing scent. I'm telling you, it's only because of the opening of the fragrance. There is a very artificial, almost slightly spicy peach note that is mixing with the very present leafy patchouli that's in this scent, along with the heavy amount of sweetness in this fragrance that you either are in love with or you can't stand. It's one or the other. There's like no in between. But the thing about it is when this fragrance dries down, that is where the magic is. That peachy note kind of fades away. It's not really there anymore. So the fruity characteristic of the scent is gone. You're just left with this overall smooth, leafy patchouli mixing with some sweet notes. And I even feel like the sweetness actually balances out a little bit too once the fragrance dries down a bit. But that's ultimately not what we're talking about with this scent. We're talking about how long it lasts. This is a strong fragrance through and through. You spray it too much in the opening, you're just going to choke people out with it. But beyond all that, it will stick to the skin. And so that's why, we're talking about it in this video. Anytime I've worn this, all day long, easily. I do feel like the projection part of it actually tampers down a little bit, which is nice because it could just be maybe a little overwhelming after the fact. So it actually doesn't become a skin scent. It just sits a little bit more comfortably on the skin, I guess is the best way I would like to put it. But yeah, anytime I've worn this, all day performance has not been a problem with this fragrance. But yeah, you're going to want to get your nose on this first because it is quite polarizing. Some people just can't get past that opening. I don't care how nice it gets on the dry down. If you can't stand it for the first 2 hours of smelling the scent, what's the point? So once again, from Maison Crivelli, commitment scent, this is Patchouli Magnetik. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you would, let me know down in the comments below what some fragrances that you have in your collection that you consider to be commitment scents. In other words, you spray them on, they are on your skin, and there's no scrubbing them off anytime soon. You got to kind of let the fragrance just do its thing and wear out on its own. Would love to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you guys. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.